To another episode of Beer Man's No Bull Beer Reviews. Today I have another beer from Brewery Bhavana out of Raleigh, I think. Raleigh, right? Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina. So this is another one of their wild ales. It's called Polyflora. See there, it says 2018 vintage. It is 6.4 ABV. The description on the back says, Polyflora is a lifting medley of Indiana malt and North Carolina wildflower honey, subtly sour with a delicate body. It was aged for 9 months in red and white wine barrels. And also it says created in collaboration with Central State, who I'm also a huge fan of. So I'm really excited for this. All of the other saisons and sour mixed culture stuff that I've had from these guys have been absolutely awesome. So I'm assuming and hoping that this follows suit on that. I just now noticed that I did not grab a bottle opener before I started this video, so I'm going to pause it just for 1 second to go do that, and I will restart the video. Sorry about that. So I got the opener. Let's crack this open and see what we got. And one thing too that I didn't mention while I was talking about the beer was, it says that there's wildflower honey in this and that. Like honey saisons, beer to meals are like my favorite American wild ale styles. Anna and Anne from Hill Farmstead are a great example. And the Catalyst from Oxbow is another one. So I'm really hoping that this follows suit with that. So as you can see, it pours a somewhat hazy, I wouldn't even say it's hazy, I'd say it's somewhat cloudy, lighter orange color with pretty much no head, but I mean any of these really highly carbonated saisons are usually that way, so I don't really put much stock into that. Interesting. This actually smells, I mean, it has a lot of depth to it. There is a good bit of minerality, some of that like wet rock quality. I do get some of that honey and just a little bit of like a grainy character to it as well. And there's definitely some oak and white wine too. I don't know that I'm getting anything like red winey character, but and it could be second or third use. I'm not sure, but it smells really nice. It also smells like slightly acetic, which I don't think that's generally a smell, but there's something about the aroma that makes me think this is going to be more tart than some of their things, which is some of their other beers, which is interesting because most of the descriptions I read said that it wasn't that sour. So we'll see. Yeah, it's not. It's really odd because the carbonation maybe it's the carbonation level being really high or something. Because it has that initial bite of something that's going to have this deep, like acidic burn to it in the back of the throat, but then it just goes away. It's very odd. They definitely kept it in check, but it is, I would say it is a little more acidic and tart than some of their other stuff. I don't know. Like up front it is, but it falls off so quickly. It's very interesting. I don't know that I've ever had anything like that. That was like the first tip on the tip of the tongue. It feels like it's gonna be not straight acid, but like fairly tart, and then you get that for a second, and then it just goes away into nothingness. It's interesting. But the aroma, even after tasting it, is becoming more complex. I'm getting a little bit of a like barnyardy, cheesy character, and a little bit of like leathery. It is maybe it's just a house thing, but it's kind of reminding me of Bolt from them, which is, I think, an absolutely fantastic beer. So, mid-palate, it feels like it's floating into that like super earthy, minerally flavor. And then and that's after the original bite of the acidity. Then it kind of just drops into this like really super dry, like French iced cider quality, which it really and that might be because, being aged in the wine barrels, it's drying it out, because it definitely has a good bit of oak character too. But it kind of reminds me of excuse me, I can't remember what the beer was called, but I did one from them that was, I think it actually had grape must in it. And this kind of reminds me of that, because you take the first sip and you get one thing, and then you get something else, and then you get this huge swerve that pulls it back. Because my first reaction in tasting it is like, oh, this is going to be pretty sour. I don't know if I'm going to like it. It might be just like straight acidic. And then you get this huge punch of like this nice, really funky, earthy minerality. And then you think it's just going to, follow through with that. And then it just takes this big turn, and it just finishes with this really dry, like almost sparkling iced cider quality. Just a lot of complexity in this. It actually, I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. It kind of reminds me of New Glarus Palm Sauvage, because that's the same way, where I wouldn't necessarily say that it has that same like initial acidity character up front, but the first taste you think it's going to be like really funky based on the nose and the taste. But then it, like, the funk is there, but it just drops off very quickly into this super dry, like, artisanal iced cider quality. But it's not iced in a sense that it's strong in alcohol. Neither want that or the New Glarus beer, but it has the complexity of an iced cider, but it's like super, super dry. It kind of reminds me of something like that. I mean, in that one, it makes way more sense in that, because there's actually apples in it. In this, there isn't, but it does remind me of that a lot. And I will say, I'm not getting honey in terms of a sweetness or actual honey flavor, but I feel like I am getting, when I drink like straight mead that isn't fruited, I get this little bit of like ethanol. I know this sounds goofy, but like if you took a piece of bread and just like breathe it in, you get this like laughing gas aroma. It's just weird. I know it's a really weird thing to say, but that's something that I get in meads too, and I am picking that up in this a little bit. So maybe that might be like the honey note that I'm really getting. I'm not really getting honey in directly in the flavor. Like in comparison to, like I said before, the Catalyst from Oxbow. That is super funky and complex, but that actually has a legitimate honey taste to it as well. So I don't think this really has that, but I do think that the honey is adding something there, but it's definitely in the background. Yeah. This is another great beer from these guys. They're definitely one brewery that I don't think many people outside of North Carolina know about, but they really should know about because they're doing some really awesome stuff. This has a lot of complexities to it. There's a bunch of things that are just pulling me in different directions, but none of them are strong enough where I'm like, okay, yeah, it just tastes like this, it just tastes like this. There's still a lot of complexity to it. I think this was like $13 or $14. I would absolutely buy this again. Really great stuff. I will say, if you're going to try, from all the stuff I've had from them, they've all been really good. But if you're going to try one, I would go for Bolt. That's my favorite, the Imperial Kvass. But in my opinion, it's not really a Kvass at all. It's just a nice, wild beer. But that's my favorite of everything they've done. They've all been great, but that was my favorite. But this is up there. This is really good. So, excuse me. Yeah, that's all I got on this guy. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to doing the next one. Thanks.